Hello and welcome to Farm Journal Live. I'm editor Clint Griffiths coming to you from our newsroom here in northern Indiana as we continue to celebrate Dairy Week, although we're wrapping up Dairy Week today. And we begin with a look at our export markets. You know, right now about 17% of all the dairy product produced here in the U.S. gets shipped out. Ag Day National reporter Betsy Gibbon takes a look at demand outside of our borders and how that is working amid a pandemic.
COVID-19 is impacting dairy exports in different ways this year, starting with the way the industry does business to expand international markets.
We were briefed just yesterday as part of our NASDA meeting that international trade trips are suspended for at least 90 days, and it's a rolling 90-day.
He says it's extremely important to make new connections in person.
Once we get people in the state and they see the infrastructure and they see the cheese and they see the dairy that we produce and the quality, the sales just flow from that.
The pandemic put a stop to those in-person meetings. There was also a drop in price.
We had cheese at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange hit $1 a pound. We haven't seen that since 2007.
Stevenson says the cheaper price got some countries to buy cheese, something not normal for the U.S. But industry leaders say dairy exports are doing well overall.
When cheese prices crashed and other dairy products sold off, you know, everyone was looked to Asia to try to soak up this affordable dairy products. So we saw massive exports into Southeast Asia.
China has also been a big buyer, especially for whey products for hog feed.
As they rebuild their hog industry, adding 14,000 new farms just this year, hog farms this year, creates a good opportunity for us in terms of the whey complex. And so the combination of those two things combined with strong sales in Korea and Japan allowed us to have a pretty good 7 months.
The USMCA between the two big dairy trading partners, Canada and Mexico, is now also enforced as dairy industry leaders watch how Canada handles Class 7.
The Canadians didn't really get rid of Class 7. This pricing arrangement isn't like completely eradicated.
Novakovic says Mexico is diversifying its portfolio, but buying from New Zealand and Europe as well, despite the agreement.
I don't think we're going to get that toothpaste all back in the tube. I think there's a new reality there.
He says there is more competition in Mexico now because they just negotiated an agreement with the EU.
Which is going to give them equal access from a tariff standpoint, eliminating tariffs on dairy imports. So we're going to be competing with the EU and Mexico, which means we're going to have to look more to Central and South America for opportunity.
But I'll tell you what, New Zealand and the European Union are way ahead of us. They're negotiating some bilaterals and even multilateral agreements much more quickly than we are.
The industry is also looking at building stronger relationships with customers.
The real growth in the world population is in Asia and Middle East, North Africa.
Every sale across the globe, helping to support the work happening at home. Reporting for Ag Day, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
Of course, dairy, just a favorite of so many people when it comes to mealtime, and I think that's probably true for our next guest, Chad Schaefer. He's the, and define it for us a little bit, Chad, because you're the head chef there with McDonald's, but you're also in charge of coming up with all the great ideas and new products that come to market.
Yeah, that's right. I work on the team that really does brand and menu strategy for McDonald's. And what that means is we get to go out, figure out what our customers want, and then how to make that happen at 14,000 restaurants.
You know, it's interesting. From a dairy perspective, over the last few years, we've talked quite a bit about McDonald's and the fact that, you know, they switched and went back to real butter, and what a big impact that made over time for the dairy market and from a demand perspective. But you were part of that switch, right? You were just coming in.
I was just coming in at McDonald's. The team was already put a lot of work into it, and it was really cool to be able to see butter and how we were using it. Not just whole butter, but we're using clarified butter too. And you know, that's one of those things where, as a chef, that's one of my favorite ingredients, right? Butter, salt, and then you name it after that. But you can't cook eggs without butter, and that's how we look at it. And it's really critical to what we do, and it's so important to things like the Egg McMuffin, where you have simple ingredients, you got to do it really well, you got to execute it, and so you got to have the best ingredients you can get a hold of, and whole butter is that ingredient.
it's interesting. And that's one of the things that McDonald's is really known for, is just being able to execute real simple meals really well and repeat it over and over. Talk about the importance of those ingredients. And for us, it's specifically about dairy and how that goes into kind of creating these menu items that I'm sure you have, hey, we've got this in the kitchen, we want to create this. How do we use it?
Yeah. Well, so my approach is you do things, you start simply and you can build on it, right? So dairy is the star. How do you make dairy the star and then build around that? Like 70% of our menu items contain dairy. So take the Egg McMuffin, for example. You have Canadian bacon, an egg, whole butter, and an English muffin, right, with a slice of cheese. So how do you get that butter melted? How do you get it on the English muffin correctly? And how do you do that without separating the butter so you get all the flavor that it brings into that sandwich?
A lot of things. It's not just I'm just going to throw this butter on here. I mean, there are a lot of things to think about, especially when you're buying these ingredients in bulk, I'm guessing, for every restaurant around the world.
Well, we focus mostly on the U.S. Business and what our team does. But you know what? I can't say enough about the job that our supply chain system does and working with them every day and what it takes, right? But at the end of the day, I know this all starts back at the farm. I grew up in central Iowa. I spent some time in Green Bay, Wisconsin, actually working for a dairy company. So I learned a lot. And part of going to school for me at the Culinary Institute of America was actually going out to California for 30 days and understanding what it takes to make these products that come into the restaurant and how to use them responsibly and how to really understand what makes them special. Butter's been a big part of that. Dairies, cheese, like all those, going out to the pasture, understanding what those cows eat, understanding how that milking happens, how that never stops. That's 365, right? So what it takes to do that is impressive. And we got to respect that ingredient and treat it right when it comes into our restaurants and put it on our sandwiches.
Have you found anything?
Freshen our business.
Right, absolutely. Have you found anything specifically as you're starting to use these ingredients of like, hey, we're looking for this, and you mentioned a specific kind of butter, which I thought was interesting. From the milk and cheese standpoint, is there anything specifically that you like to use?
Delicious things. There's nothing specific, but I mean, whether it's whole butter, whole salted butter, clarified butter works for other reasons, right? But everything has its purpose. And one of the things that working with DMI and what we do here at McDonald's is that they help us understand what we're really looking for, what we need to use at the scale that we're at so that we can be consistent across the restaurants, get the best ingredients we can. There's been a lot of different projects that they've been involved with over the last few years, whether it's the plastic milk jugs in our Happy Meals, right? Being able to get the milk to the consumer the way the consumer wants it is so important. Just with that milk, it's the chocolate milk, and making sure we have the right recipe that the kids are going to love, that the adults are going to love getting for the kids, right? Just things like that.
So as you look out on the horizon here, I know you're probably working on all kinds of great stuff. Anything that you're excited about or that's just come out that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I always start my day with a McCafe drink. So, the coffee program here at McDonald's, I'm really proud of. I've always been a little bit of a coffee nut, but being able to come in, use our espresso machines, pull the dairy through that, get the right foam. That's a great way to start. But what I'm really excited about right now is just the McFlurries that we have out. The McFlurry, we have a McFlurry with caramel and Chips Ahoy cookies, and it's, how can you go wrong, right? Awesome ice cream, Chips Ahoy cookies, and caramel swirl through there. We had a Stroopwafel a little while ago, earlier in the year, last year, that was just a knockout. Again, it all starts with that ice cream base. If you got the right ice cream, you just start gilding the lily, and that's the fun part. So I think those are two items that really I have a lot of excitement and energy around.
Yeah, so many great ways to use dairy, and obviously there in your test kitchen, you guys are finding lots of great ways to use it.
Absolutely, and then for cheese is always an option on the sandwiches. We serve a lot of sandwiches, so we're always looking at different kinds of cheese. How do they melt? How do the customers like that? Visual appeal, all those types of things. It's it's a really broad world out there. And without the farmers to produce the milk, without the people to produce the cheese, and without partners like DMI to really help us understand what we need to be doing for our customers, that's how it all starts to come together in what we put out there for new products at McDonald's US.
Chad, thank you so much for being a part of our Dairy Week. We really appreciate your work and the work that you're doing and the restaurants are doing to use dairy.
Thank you. I really appreciate being part of this. And, I want to thank everybody for what it takes to produce what we use and sell to our customers every day.
All right. Thank you. For more Dairy Week coverage, head over to dairyherd.com and sign up for Farm Journal's Dairy Week, the free event featuring podcasts, ebooks, along with live and on-demand webinars. Our TV crews have been focusing on dairy all week, but make sure you watch this weekend for U.S. Farm Report as they continue the Dairy Week theme. From all of us here at Farm Journal, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.